Bolingbrook. Illinois looked like the kind of place where nothing truly terrible could happen. Quiet streets, brick homes, lawns trimmed with precision. Just another comfortable suburb sitting outside Chicago. Safe, orderly, predictable. At least that's what it looked like on the surface. But behind one red brick house on Pheasant Chase Drive, a woman was living in fear of the man everyone else trusted. Kathleen Savio Peterson was 40 years old in the fall of 2001. After years trapped in a marriage filled with violence, threats, and control, she was finally trying to escape. Less than a mile away, her husband, Drew Peterson, was already building a new life with a teenage girl he met while working patrol as a police sergeant. One woman was fighting to survive. The other had no idea what she was walking into. Their lives were moving toward the same ending. Kathleen and Savio was born in Glendale Heights, Illinois on June 13, 1963. Friends and family called her Kitty. She came from a large Catholic family and grew up surrounded by siblings, loud dinners, and constant connection. People remembered her laugh more than anything. It was contagious, sudden, impossible to ignore. She wasn't trying to command attention, but somehow she always did. She was smart too, especially with numbers. Accounting came naturally to her, but the people closest to her said her real strength was how deeply she loved. Family came before everything. In 1992, she married Drew Peterson. He was older, confident, intense, a police officer with swagger and authority. Within months, he left his second wife and proposed to Kathleen. She later admitted she was drawn to the dangerous energy surrounding him, the certainty, the confidence, the image of a tough cop who always seemed in control. Together they built what looked like a stable suburban life. 2 sons, a home, a business. They bought Suds Pub in Montgomery, Illinois, and Kathleen handled the finances while raising their children. From the outside, it looked successful. Inside the marriage, it was collapsing. The violence started early. During an argument in 1993, Kathleen suffered a head injury after striking the dining room table. Police responded to multiple domestic disturbances over the years. Friends later said the relationship was filled with fear and intimidation. By 2002, Kathleen had reached her limit. She filed for an order of protection and described years of abuse in detail. She claimed Drew threatened her life repeatedly. She told people he would kill her and make it look accidental. She even walked into the Bolingbrook Police Department and warned officers directly, "If anything happens to me, Drew did it." People heard her. Reports were written. Statements were documented. Nothing changed. Then another twist hit. In October 2001, Kathleen found an anonymous letter in her mailbox claiming Drew was sleeping with a 17-year-old girl connected to the police department. The letter warned her to protect herself and her children. That same month, she filed for divorce. But the system Kathleen turned to for help was the exact same system protecting her husband. The officers responding to her domestic calls worked beside Drew every day. The chief, she warned, personally knew him. Kathleen didn't disappear through bureaucratic cracks. The truth was much worse. The man she accused belonged to the institution meant to investigate him. Meanwhile, Drew Peterson's history already carried warning signs of its own. Born in Bolingbrook in 1954, Peterson joined the Army after high school before marrying his first wife. That marriage ended after repeated infidelity. His second marriage to Victoria Conley reportedly became violent and abusive. Victoria later claimed Drew threatened to kill her and staged it as an accident. Her daughter described years of emotional and physical abuse inside the home. That relationship collapsed too after Drew cheated again, this time with Kathleen. Even his police career raised concerns. In 1985, Peterson was removed from the Bolingbrook Police Department over misconduct allegations involving an unauthorized investigation and failure to report a bribe. But the following year, he got his badge back after officials claimed there wasn't enough evidence. He stayed. He rose through the ranks. And he learned the system usually protected him. By 2001, Peterson had started seeing 17-year-old Stacy Kales. Stacy had graduated high school early and worked nights at a local hotel. Peterson met her while working patrol when she was just 16. The relationship turned romantic shortly after she turned 17. Family members later described how he slowly inserted himself into her life, checking on her at work, showing up constantly, making himself feel necessary. By 2003, while still finalizing his divorce from Kathleen, Peterson married Stacy. She was 19. He was 49. They moved into a house just down the road from Kathleen. Stacy eventually adopted Kathleen's 2 sons and appeared devoted to all 4 children in the home. Meanwhile, Kathleen remained locked in exhausting court battles with Drew over custody, finances, and property. Friends noticed her anxiety, worsening every time his name came up. One described her as a trapped animal, cycling between fear, panic, and isolation. In October 2003, the divorce was finalized. 5 months later, Kathleen Savio was dead. On March 1st, 2004, a neighbor discovered Kathleen's body inside her bathtub. She was face down. Her body was wet. Her fingertips were wrinkled from prolonged exposure to water, but the bathtub itself was completely dry. There was also a deep gash on the back of her head. The scene made no sense. Illinois State Police initially treated the death as a possible homicide because Drew Peterson was a police officer. Investigators reportedly even presented evidence before a grand jury. Then suddenly, everything shifted. Instead of continuing as a criminal investigation, the case was handed to a coroner's jury. 6 community members listened to testimony and determined the manner of death. One of those jurors was reportedly a police officer who personally knew Drew Peterson. In the end, Kathleen's death was ruled an accidental drowning. Case closed. No murder charges. No arrest. Nothing. Peterson, who still had access to Kathleen's home and stood to collect a large insurance payout, walked away untouched. Kathleen's family never believed the ruling for a second. But legally, the system had spoken. While Kathleen's funeral was happening, Stacy Peterson was beginning to see another side of Drew. At first, it came in small moments. He constantly called to check on her. He followed her. Friends spotted his police cruiser near stores when she went shopping. Sometimes he left work just to monitor where she was. He discouraged her from working and refused to help with the kids when she tried focusing on nursing school. Over time, the control became impossible to ignore. Then came the night Kathleen died. According to later testimony, Stacy woke up and realized Drew wasn't in bed beside her. Hours later, she watched him return home dressed entirely in black, carrying a bag. He immediately washed his clothes and whatever was inside the bag. Years later, Stacy allegedly told Reverend Neil Scory that Drew confessed to killing Kathleen and staging the scene to look accidental. She said he warned her what to say if police ever questioned her. The fear inside Stacy grew quietly over the next few years. She confided in her pastor, her attorney, friends. She said she wanted out, but by then, she already knew too much. On October 28, 2007, Stacy Peterson disappeared. She was 23 years old. Friends and family later described her as terrified of Drew. A family friend recalled Stacy repeatedly saying she wanted a divorce, but feared what would happen if she asked for one. That Sunday, she was supposed to help her sister paint. She never arrived. Drew later claimed Stacy left him for another man and drove herself to the airport before vanishing voluntarily. Police found her vehicle near the airport, but after that there was nothing. No calls, no bank activity, no trace. Her sister Cassandra reported her missing the following morning. By that point, 3 women connected to Drew Peterson had described fear, abuse, or threats. Victoria warned he knew how to kill someone and disguise it. Kathleen documented her terror repeatedly before ending up dead inside a dry bathtub. Stacy claimed she saw evidence linking him to Kathleen's death and later vanished herself. Still, nobody connected the pattern until it was too late. In November 2007, Illinois State Police publicly named Drew Peterson a suspect in Stacy's disappearance. Days later, a judge approved the exhumation of Kathleen Savio's body. Peterson responded in a way that disturbed nearly everyone watching. Instead of hiding from attention, he embraced it. He laughed during interviews, joked on television, acted strangely relaxed while investigators searched for his missing wife. The public noticed. So did police. A second autopsy changed everything. Forensic pathologist Dr. Michael Baden examined Kathleen's remains and concluded her injuries were inconsistent with an accidental fall. Bruises covered her body. Multiple wounds suggested a violent struggle. The deep scalp laceration was far too severe for a simple slip inside a bathroom. The original ruling collapsed overnight. In February 2008, prosecutors officially reclassified Kathleen Savio's death as a homicide staged to resemble an accident. 5 years after her death, authorities finally arrested Drew Peterson for murder. The trial became one of the most unusual in Illinois history. Normally, statements made outside court are considered hearsay and excluded from trial. But lawmakers passed what became known as Drew's Law, allowing certain hearsay evidence when prosecutors believed the defendant prevented a witness from testifying. In other words, the dead could finally speak. Reverend Neil Scorey testified about Stacy's statements describing Drew returning home dressed in black the night Kathleen died. Kathleen's attorney confirmed Stacy told him the exact same story. Another witness testified Drew once tried hiring someone to kill Kathleen before her death. The defense fought aggressively, but the pattern surrounding Peterson became impossible to ignore. After 13 hours of deliberation, the jury reached a verdict. On September 6, 2012, Drew Peterson was found guilty of murdering Kathleen Savio. He received a 38-year prison sentence. Outside the courthouse, Kathleen's family finally felt heard after years of screaming into silence. But Peterson's story didn't end there. While in prison, he allegedly attempted to arrange the murder of Will County State's Attorney James Glasgow. Another inmate secretly recorded conversations with Peterson discussing the plan in detail. In 2016, Peterson was convicted again and sentenced to an additional 40 years. Today he remains behind bars. Stacy Peterson has never been found. Her disappearance is still officially unsolved, though Drew Peterson remains a primary suspect in the eyes of many investigators and members of the public. But beyond the headlines, the television coverage, and the courtroom drama, Kathleen Savio's story remains the most haunting part of all this. Her family called her Kitty. She loved her sons fiercely. She laughed loudly. She kept records because she wanted proof. And over again, she told people exactly what she believed would happen to her. The tragedy isn't that nobody heard her. It's that they did.